The sun had not fully risen yet, but gentle rays of light began to spread across the earth. Outside the last mud hut of a small village, Ethan sat on a stone, gazing into the vast sky. His face was clouded with confusion, and his heart stirred with a storm of questions. Who am I? Does my life have any meaning? These questions had been echoing in his heart for days. He didn't come from a noble family, nor was he wealthy. His father was a modest farmer, and his mother worked as a seamstress, but Ethan's heart always longed for something more, something beyond the ordinary. While the village children played, Ethan would sit quietly beneath trees, staring at the sky. While others listened to stories, he was lost in his own thoughts. People called him strange, sometimes even mad, but it didn't matter to him. One day, while sitting by the pond, watching his reflection in the water, a thought struck his heart. If I don't know myself, then where do I belong in this world? That day he made a promise. I will discover myself. I will understand my truth. From that moment on, Ethan began keeping a diary. Every night he would write about his day. What made me happy today? When did I get angry? When did I feel weak? What moment touched my heart? At first he felt awkward. Sometimes he thought he was writing nonsense. But he didn't stop. With each passing day, he drew closer to his inner emotions. One day he wrote, "When my friend interrupted me without listening, I felt hurt. I realized I crave deep, meaningful conversations." Another day, I saw a small child fall and helped him up. It made me feel like I have both strength and softness. These small moments filled his diary. He learned that he wasn't just a bundle of feelings, but a journey, a story being written each day. Soon, Ethan began to sense the light within himself. He realized that his sensitivity, his questions, his silence, all were part of who he was. His heart was no longer restless. He now understood what was going on inside him and began to embrace all aspects of his personality. The first principle Ethan discovered was self-awareness. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's inner journey grew deeper. After discovering self-awareness, he felt stronger. But life had different plans. Knowing oneself was only the beginning. The real test now began, to hold on to that understanding when the world tried to break him. The test started with a blow. One cold morning, Ethan's father returned from the fields limping. A doctor from the nearby town brought grave news: a severe spinal injury. Farming was no longer possible. The burden of the household, once shared by two adults, now rested almost entirely on Ethan's young shoulders. He was only 16. The villagers whispered, "He's soft, lost in dreams. How will he survive the real world?" Those words cut deeper than any wound, but Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he began working harder than ever. He woke up before dawn, cared for the animals, carried sacks of grain for neighbours, and returned home in the evening to study under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp. At night, he wrote in his diary, "I'm exhausted. My body aches. But somewhere inside, a voice tells me to keep going. I don't know where this strength comes from, but I trust it." Setbacks were constant. Some days he earned nothing. Others, the weather ruined his efforts. Hunger became a frequent visitor. His mother grew thinner, quieter. But Ethan kept going. Then came another blow. The school announced a new fee policy. Students had to pay or leave. Ethan didn't have the money. That night he wrote, "I want to scream. I want to cry, but I won't. I will find a way. This storm will not last forever." He sold his handmade wooden toys. He began tutoring younger village children. He even cleaned the village library just to be allowed to borrow books. Weeks passed. One morning, the principal called him to the office. A local charity had heard of Ethan and offered to pay his entire fee. His hard work had not gone unnoticed. That evening, Ethan returned home not with pride, but with peace. He had climbed a mountain most people fear to face, not through ease, but through perseverance. He wrote, "Life isn't a straight path. It's filled with sharp turns, steep climbs, and sudden drops. But each trial reveals a new strength within me." Then he opened a fresh page and wrote the second principle in bold, perseverance. He now understood. Dreams come true not through brilliance, but through the unshakable refusal to give up when everything seems to fall apart. After weeks of hardship, Ethan began to see the world not just with his eyes, but with his mind and heart. His inner strength, born from awareness and perseverance, was now evolving into something more powerful. The ability to choose how he saw his world. It began one ordinary morning. Ethan was on his way to the library when a man dropped a heavy sack of flour. Instead of helping, most passers-by looked the other way. Ethan rushed forward, lifted the bag, and helped the man carry it to his shop. The man smiled. "You're Ethan, aren't you? The boy who teaches kids and reads by lamplight. I've heard about you." Ethan nodded, a little surprised. The man continued, "I've seen people with wealth do less. Yet here you are, changing lives in small ways." That moment lit something in Ethan's mind. Was it possible that his struggles weren't setbacks but strength training? That evening he opened his diary and wrote, "Maybe life hasn't punished me. Maybe it has prepared me. Every hardship has sharpened my senses. Every failure taught me how to see things clearly." He began to shift how he viewed challenges. When someone insulted him, he no longer took it personally. He wondered what pain they might be hiding. When rain ruined a tutoring day, he used the time to study or carve wooden bookmarks he could sell later. Ethan now saw his surroundings as lessons. The trees taught patience. The river whispered about flexibility. The mountain reminded him of endurance. Even silence had its voice, a voice that taught him to listen. His mind, once filled with complaints, now brimmed with curiosity. One day, a group of students argued over whose family was richer. Ethan sat quietly. Then, one boy asked him, "What about you, Ethan? What do you have?" He smiled and said, "Perspective. I see things not just for what they are, but for what they can become." He realized that his greatest treasure wasn't money or comfort, but the way he interpreted the world around him. That night, he wrote in his diary, "We don't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond, what meaning we assign, and how we grow from it." On a fresh page, he wrote his third principle, Perspective, the lens of growth. Ethan was no longer the boy who once stared blankly at the sky. Now his eyes held light, his steps had direction, and his heart carried a softness that only those who have suffered truly understand. But there was one more truth he had yet to discover: the power of living for others. It began with a simple moment. One evening, while returning books to the library, Ethan noticed a young girl sitting alone, crying. She clutched a book but couldn't read it. Ethan asked gently, "What's wrong?" She replied, "I want to read, but no one will help me." In that instant, something lit up inside Ethan. He sat down and began teaching her. One day turned into another. More children joined. Within weeks, Ethan was teaching in a small corner of the library. Then one afternoon, a mother approached him and said, "Ethan, my son read to me for the first time. You lit a candle inside him." That night, Ethan wrote, "Knowing yourself is power, surviving hardship is skill, but using your strength for others, that's life's true meaning." He created a volunteer group at school. They taught younger kids, gathered food for elders, planted trees, and visited the sick. Service became part of his daily life. Slowly, Ethan became more than just a person. He became an example. One day, the school principal called him in. "Ethan, what you've done goes beyond textbooks. We want you to speak at graduation." Graduation day arrived. The hall was packed. Ethan stood on stage and said, "I was not born extraordinary. My home was small, my life difficult, and my resources few. But I learned one thing. When we opened our lives to serve others, we receive a joy that wealth can never offer." Eyes welled with tears. Applause thundered through the hall. But Ethan felt calm. He knew he had given his life a purpose. That night, he wrote his final principle in his diary. Service. True greatness lies in making others' lives easier. His story was now complete. A boy who began with self-awareness, endured trials, learned to see the world differently, and ultimately chose to better it. Ethan's life teaches us, know yourself, stand firm in hardship, change how you see, use your strength to serve. These 4 principles became the foundation of his success.